Okay. Good morning, Jackie here from the Book Advisor. Today I'm here with Darryl Lovegrove, and he's my next subject on the Book Advisor author interviews. Welcome, Darryl.
Hey, thanks, Jackie. Lovely to be here. Hi, everyone.
It's a great sunny Wednesday, yet again, a Wednesday in lockdown.
Yeah.
I think we're up to week 6 now. So, I don't know if we're halfway through or what.
No, yeah, about halfway through, maybe just over, I reckon.
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
not sure. Who knows?
Yeah. Darryl, thank you for taking time to have a bit of a chat with me today about your book journey. I first remember meeting you about 18 months ago and being energized by your enthusiasm, energy, and passion. And some would say those are a lot of characteristics I have myself, but I think you've got them in, truckloads. For those of you who haven't heard of you, and I'm sure they've heard of you before because one of your many roles and performings was as the founder of one of the Three Waiters, a global entertainment show that went global but started in a flat in Strawberry Hills in Redfern.
Yeah.
So interesting kind of gig. Is the house still there? Can we kind of go and visit?
It is. It's still there. It's where the guy I put it together with, a guy called Mark Bradley.
Yeah.
He was there, and Mark and I had been flatmates in Manly when I first came to Australia in the late 80s, and in Elizabeth Bay in the mid 90s, and then I teamed up with him again in the late 90s. We'd separated. He had his girlfriend, his partners, I had my partners, but we just seemed to now and then just again, hey, I need a flatmate again. So so we would he was with those days he was with his girlfriend, became his wife, Monique, and Monique became very much part of the early days. And I was just coming out of an amazing 6 or 7 or 10 years really as an actor, and it was an extraordinary time. And but that house is still there in Pitt Street in Strawberry Hills.
There we go. I might zoom past there the next time I go there.
That's right.
So not bad for a boy from New Zealand, and I'm a girl from Palmerston North in New Zealand. So there you go.
Yeah.
And
I think there's something about us that the Kiwis and the Aussies, especially when we take it on the world, they notice there's a bit of something about us. They tell us that. It's almost a je ne sais quoi, a kind of a larrikinism. And I remember when we were doing the Three Waiters, we were workshopping it with our original actors that we got on. They were all looking at the script going, God, this script, only a bloody Aussie could write this. And we said, probably said, you know these jokes, you're gonna have to change some of these jokes. They're not gonna work here. And we went, they're gonna give it a go. And we gave it a go. And I remember them, 6 months later when I came back for a visit, they went, you're right, they love these jokes. We didn't think you were going to get away with it, but they love them. There's a bit of Australianism, Kiwiism in them.
Yeah, but we won't get into that discussion about Pavlova, split ends, Sam Neill, and all of that. So another decade, another life. You're now a speaker. You're still an entertainer, as well as being an entertainment producer and an award-winning performer. Not doing much performing at the moment, unfortunately. So Darryl, must be an incredibly challenging time for you at the moment with COVID and lockdown in Sydney.
It is very much so, and very much so for my performers. When I put Lovegrove Entertainment together, when I sold out of the Three Waiters in 2009, I immediately established Lovegrove Entertainment, and I started only with one act, which I'd had during the days with the Three Waiters, and I took that with me, called The Leading Men, and it's still going today. But then since then I established about 8 acts, and we've everyone, I have to keep in touch with them and make sure they're okay, because they're doing nothing. They haven't been for 18 months, except for that little 6-month period, sort of 3 before and 3 months after Christmas. It looked like it was going back to normal again. And now it's just back to this sort of situation, which is very disappointing. Yeah, it's really hard. Luckily, I've fallen back on my original degree I got when I left school, and that was to become a school teacher. And so I've always been able to fall back on that. And I do actually genuinely enjoy myself doing, teaching kids. So that's not a problem. But I obviously it's not the first thing I want to do.
Yeah.
So it is tough, and so many of them don't have that kind of I guess, that thing to fall back on. And so then they're relying on government grants and government, social welfare and everything. It's really tough.
Yeah. So in an odd way, it's a time when understanding how to stay relevant or to reinvent yourself is something that I'm sure that many people are working on right now. And so that's a really very planned segue to really have a bit of a chat about your book journey and your book, Why Haven't I Heard From You?
I've heard of you. Yeah.
Standing out in a crowded, crazy, changing new world. And boy, are we right smack bang in the middle of that right now.
We certainly are. Look, you could say that that book you're holding is because of COVID. I probably wouldn't have written it if COVID hadn't happened. But for years, people have been saying to me, "Why don't you need to write a book? You need to write a book." And I've always gone, "Oh God, I don't have a moment to think. I couldn't even write a bloody chapter right now." I just, but someone said to me, "Look, you do realize you have a book because firstly, you could sit down and just write your story, and that would be interesting enough as a kind of like an autobiography. But people had seen me speak on stage at conferences where I talk about my story, like for the Three Waiters, post Three Waiters, my business ethos, all that kind of thing. And they'd said, you don't realize, but that stuff there, you just have to elaborate on that a bit more, flesh it out, and that's a book." And I went, "Really? Okay, okay." So anyway, when COVID happened, and I sat there, as we all did at one stage, we realized this thing is really real. I've just lost all this work. Oh my gosh. But so is everybody else. It's not just me. I can't take this personally. So I've really got to find out, what do I do with this time? And I thought, well, what about that book? What about that book idea? Is this the time? I've got a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah.
And yeah, what the heck? And of course, by that stage, I had already given you a call. We'd already been in touch a little because I was thinking about it, and we talked about preliminary stages. But when COVID happened, it was like this book thing. There's no second thoughts. I have to do it. I have to do it. Now's the time.
This is the moment.
The moment.
To coin is it a title from a song, or I don't know. So I guess that's kind of our first question kind of answered. I was going to ask you what the motivating factor was for you to write and publish your book.
I guess because, when people tell you over and over again, after a while, you start to think, well, maybe they've got a point and maybe I should sit down and think about this. And there was the same thing with keynote speaking, was that when I once sat down with a guy, and there's a chapter in it in my book about how I became a keynote speaker, he was saying to me, he wanted to hear my story, and I told the story, and he said, "Okay, you need to go and tell the story to the world. And you need to become a keynote speaker." It was at a conference of the Three Waiters were performing. And he said, I've just flown in 4 people from Europe and 1 from America. I paid them £10,000. It was in Scotland. This event was in Scotland. And I've just heard them, and they were great these last 3 days. But here we are in our final 3-day conference dinner. I've just seen your show. You've just told me the story about it. I think the story you just said was as good, if not better, than anything I just experienced in the last 3 or 4 days with these speakers. You need to become a keynote speaker. That's one of the most inspirational, wonderful. That's what we need when we go to conferences, to hear stories like yours that fill us with hope and motivation, and we hear the good parts and the bad parts and how you overcame the bad parts and all that sort of stuff. So now I put that in the back of my mind, and it was always there. And a few other people along the way said, "Yeah, that's an amazing story. You should write a book, or should speak about it." But I never did, because I was so tunnel visioned in the business itself. And when I did finally sell out in 2009, it was with the mind of finally, 6 years after I'd been, that seed was planted, was to become a keynote speaker. And I put everything together, and I talk about it in the book, of course. And then, next thing is I'm being asked to speak at many conferences, and it's been great. So that's been a important thing. So the answer is that I have, I found a time and a place to take advice, constant advice that I could have said no to, but I decided to go, okay, I'll at least explore it, have a look at it, sit down, maybe talk to a few people. How's this going to work? And I went to Brett Rutledge, a great guy in Melbourne, who helped me with the keynote. And of course, I went to the book advisor, went to you to help me with the book. And those two things propelled me forward, and I was able to start doing it.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess it's also partly that thing around having the confidence to kind of think that your story's worth telling, and that you can actually tell it.
That's right. That's right. And as a keynote speaker, you can imagine when you're practicing at home in your lounge, but you're sort of thinking, how's this going to translate? I mean, real life people are sitting there, been there all day or maybe 3 days, and they're tired. And, are they really going to inspire them? You're really going to get them set up and go, this guy's interesting. What an interesting story. And it's not until you do it, you've got to get out there and do it. And that was obviously extremely, what's the word? It fills your heart when the response is so much love coming back in. People want your autograph afterwards, and people want to say, have you got a book? Have you got a book? Got a CD or something like that. And so you realize, okay, this is good. This is exactly the kind of response I was hoping for. And same with the book. You're writing all this stuff, and you think it's interesting and compelling, but you have to give it around to a few people for them to, and you have to say to them, listen, I don't want you to tell me this book's great. I want you to tell me it's okay, but this is where I think you're going wrong with it. I think you need to do this with it. I think you need to do that with it. Get rid of that part. But what about this? You talk more about that part. That was good. I was interested in that. And then you stopped. You need to keep on going with that, because I need to know how all that kind of stuff. Feedback is essential to take on board. And then there's some stuff you get, you go, no, you've got to have a pretty good filter to work out. Some people advice are coming from an area where it's not useful, but most of them are. They do see the big picture. They know what you're wanting to do. They know the audience you're trying to attract, and they've generally got some great ideas. And all the rewrites are the fun part, because you've got the basis. That's the hard part. But then you get the rewrites. I loved going back, okay, I'll have a look at that. I thought that part was all right, but I'll have a look at it. Yeah. Oh, I think I can put it in here. I can put it there. It becomes like a jigsaw puzzle that you can play with, and add stuff. And I love the nights. I love the experience when writing the book, where during the day, I've been thinking about it tonight. When I go home, I want to. I'm going to, on that chapter, I just want to explore this idea of something. It might be something about values. So I remember the night that I wrote the chapter about values. I put some things into Google, and I just wanted to write some. I wrote some things about my sort of idea of it. And then I Googled values, and I looked at quite a few other people's writings on it, and I started to formulate things. The next thing is I started writing like crazy, adding to what I'd written, and boom. And the next thing I looked back and went, whoa, where did that come from? And it was just this outpouring of consciousness that was opened by me by looking at sort of a macro view of the term values, and the term focus. That's another sort of mini chapter I've got in there. And because I'd already looked, and purpose and action, resilience, those are things that I talk about a lot as a keynote speaker, but still to look at that in a more macro way was able to enrich the chapters that I was talking about. And that research thing was terrific. I enjoyed that a lot. And I love the fact that I found myself typing away, and you look back and go, gosh, this was, I didn't know, I didn't know I could actually produce that stuff. I quite like that. And then you get the feedback from people going, I like that chapter on values of focus, and go, yeah, cool, thank you.
Terrific. So that, I guess that leads into my next question really, really well. What was the hardest part about writing your book, and how long did it take you?
I probably was, you know this. I think, Jaqui, the wonderful way that you gave me the framework of the goals that I had to kick along the way, and we created the dates that this was to be done by this date. That was essential for me, and I was really conscious of that. I didn't want to let you down, which is I didn't want to let you down. I didn't want you to go, oh, Darryl, you haven't done a deadline. I'm not that kind of person who, I got a deadline. I need to meet it. You know what I mean? And that's a discipline that I don't know if it's you've either got or you haven't, but you really need to work to that. If you're going to work with an organization like yourself, you've got to really meet those deadlines, and you've got to make some sacrifices to do that. And I did that, and I was always proud. So I didn't find there was the hardest. What was the hardest part? I'm not sure, because I found the whole thing quite not easy, but joyful. Was it worthwhile? It was. I liked the process because I already had the content.
Yeah,
I think is the main thing. If I wasn't a keynote speaker, but for instance, if I'd written the book at the time that I was going to become a keynote speaker, where I still hadn't put the content together for my keynote presentation, that would have been quite hard, because I really have to, I'm coming up with content, it's not easy, especially your own stuff. You have to, as I say, you have to go pretty deep and spend a lot of time really going quite deep with it all. So I had done that stuff. I'd had a lot of the content. So it's just a question of where does where go, and how do I tell the story? And because I had a number of things, as you know, I had the what we call the quick diversions. This every chapter, between every chapter is that little short story from my career, and usually a fun thing.
Yeah, they're very funny.
And the whole idea of that is just to keep it fun as well as serious, serious kind of thing. And because I've got some good tales to tell. It saved me from, one person early on said, Daz, this is really 2 books. I said, I know it's 2 books. He said, maybe you should have really written 2 books, because, you know, to match him, he didn't quite enjoy the fact that, you know, he'd finish a chapter and then have to be interrupted and read 3 pages of a really cool thing, and then have to go back to then, you know, the deep story. And he said it should have written 2 books. I said, no, one's going to be enough. and a lot of, but other people, of course, most people have said they like the quick diversions. What we call the, you know, the little short stories. Along the way.
So how much time did it take you, kind of from the time that you made the decision, you know, work with me, to the time to the time you launched it? Well, so what was that time period for you?
It was a year, wasn't it? I think it was a year.
Just over a year, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It was sort of January, February when we were having the meeting. We went into lockdown in March, and that's when I realized, oh, this is good. This is okay. This is the time to really do the book. You know, and that's when COVID realized I'm going to meet these deadlines, because I've got COVID. COVID's here now. That's right. That's right. Forget about those early days. So I was able to do that. So it was about to me, I always think about it the year. I was thinking about March to March, because we launched it on March the 1st, and March was kind of the beginning of the lockdown. So to me, it was a year-long
12
process.
Months. Yeah. And tell me.
And yet the book really was finished by November.
Yeah.
We just had to wait 3 months, thinking that the difficulty thing, I would have launched it, and I remember we started pretty much. We were thinking of launching it in October, and because the whole world is still closing down, nothing happened. We thought let's just delay it until we will thought March. So really, the honest thing really is 8 to 9 months.
Well done, very good. Now, I was at the book launch, an actual book launch, which was fantastic. So what marketing have you done? And what are you currently doing to promote the book? And they're kind of loaded questions, given that we've been in and out of lockdown and unlocking and all the rest of it. So a really challenging time. It
is. And that's something I still wouldn't mind taking out for coffee and having a bit of chat about, because my books come out at the same time as a fascinating guy called Ian Whitworth. His work is one Indisruptible or something. And it's a business book as well, but I know Ian, and he's really a talented guy, and I'm looking forward to reading his book. But he said the other day on social media, and as I was reading it, I went, yes, that's exactly the dilemma I've got. He said, I've put my heart into this book, you know, and he got a publisher to do it. He went through a publisher, and he said, and right now, if all was an ideal world, my book would be splattered all across bookstores in airports. He said, because that hasn't happened. And so now I'm left with the fact that we have to really kind of do this all through social media and email things. And he said, so I'm asking you, can you please, you know, spread the word and share this and whatever. And that's, so he's saying that it's the worst timing. Yeah. It is the worst timing. And I'm thinking it is too. Not that I was ever planning to get my books on airport bookstores. Mine was written specifically for the conference world, because so many times I'm coming off stage and people want, and I'm realizing that people want either, do you have a CD or is there a book? And of course I've had neither. So I did, because I also remember I recorded the CD last year as well.
Yes, you did.
Well, I was writing the book, I was recording a CD. So that's our big challenge, is how do we really get it out? So all I've done is consistent social media, because I mean, I could do email blasts. I haven't done any email blasts yet. I should. But I feel that while there are no conferences going on, if I go really hard now and then let's say in 4 or 5 months, oh, it's the season again, I started to get a few maybe keynotes. I've got to kind of go again, but at the conference world. And I kind of feel like going, maybe now's the time to just softly, just keep it gently there in the social media world, and pick up anyone who's interested in buying it, but go hard when the conference world is back again, because I haven't gone hard with it.
Yeah.
And I haven't sold a lot of copies. This is the honest truth. Because my market is just not there. There are no such thing as conferences at the moment. There's no. I can't sell 300 to 300 people because there's no conferences to sell them to. So that's the thing, is that I realized, look, timing is bad, but it's still a book, and who knows. One thing I'm interested in is because I've gone specifically for the conference world, maybe there's no point, if I was to do a second edition or something, of ever doing a hard copy. Maybe the idea is to just create an ebook. Always there, can change words around, a lot cheaper that way, and then I do a conference and everyone gets the ebook. Well,
I think you and I need to have
a chat about that
virtual coffee and talk about that. But I think what I get out of what you're saying is that it's marketing your book. You have to be very targeted in who you're marketing it to, where they are. And that you need to be flexible in how you reach those people, particularly now, and that it's something that you have to keep working at.
That's right. Well, leading up to the March was when I sold most of my books. But after the book launch, I've been on lots of podcasts. I've done have articles written about me, and I've really hardly sold a book at all.
Interesting feedback.
Yeah, really. And since March the 1st.
Yeah, that's really interesting, that connection. And I'm often talking to the people that I work with, and we've worked together. I'm always harping on about the target audience and where they are, and that you have to play there, because it's important to be visible, but often you can get caught up with being visible and doing a lot of stuff that's not necessarily primarily your target audience and the people that you're wanting to reach. So it's a really interesting kind of conversation, that one. Okay, so this is kind of your advertisement spot. Can you give us a quick summary of the book and how it's structured, even though you've kind of given us a bit of a tip on that? So you've got 3 sections, I know that. And so maybe take us through, give us a quick summary of the book.
Okay, well, the first section is very autobiographical. Look, I'm really lucky. I'm not going to, it's nothing. I'm a performer. I'm an actor first and foremost, and I've been very lucky being in some of the big shows that we all know of, the Les Mis, the Jesus Christ Superstars of the world. I've been playing leading roles in some of them, and I've been in plays and lots of that sort of stuff. Then my life changed enormously when I came to the late 90s, was when Mark and I threw this idea around of these 3 dressing up 3 opera singers up as waiters, and I had to come, it blew up so fast, so quickly, that within a year I had to sit down and go, well, oh gosh, I can't just be part-time at this. This is so massive now, and maybe there's scope for taking it to the rest of the world. So I had to stop all that acting side and become a businessman. And that was tough because, I wasn't one. But I had to, because I had to get smart about this. All of a sudden, you're taking risk, you're investing money in starting business up overseas, you're opening bank accounts, you're marketing it to a whole world that doesn't have a clue what product you are supplying, and in England and in the United States, and the whole thing. And what transpired was the most incredible 11 years for me. I was taking this brand that was massive in Australia and taking it to UK in 2000, United States in 2001, and all the trials and tribulations of that, of starting off in a new country and developing your teams, putting an office together, working out how do we market it, how do we get it out, where are the organizations that we need to target, all that sort of thing. And, and then noticing that all of a sudden, oh, we've got a booking. Oh, we've got an opportunity here, we've got an opportunity there. Oh, so-and-so. And the next thing is the train starts to leave the station, and it builds up the momentum. And England was incredibly successful for us very quickly. We did some very big showcase shows, and the next thing is it spread like wildfire. as it did in Australia. America was a very different story. It was a slow grind, but just as we were starting to move, just as we were getting to move, 9/11 happened, and that changed everything. And then we went right back to square one. And it was a question of, do we pull out and just concentrate on the UK and Australia, or do we just start again? And we started again. And it's a great story of going back to the basics with the original databases, ringing people up, getting them to just look at the video, the promo video, because we've always had great promo videos, and getting them to understand that they've got this awesome product, and getting on the phones, and being in a country which has a 3-hour time difference between the East and West Coast, and everything that's involved with that, and just dealing with the American audiences, American events industry. It's just an incredible story. I've been lucky. I've been totally blessed. It starts off with my obviously childhood up to present day, and childhood was pretty interesting. Spending my first years in Malawi, in Eastern Africa, and Switzerland, in Geneva, and coming back as a 6-year-old to New Zealand, going to boarding school for 8 years, and training as a teacher, and then flying over as a 21-year-old to Australia to be in the biggest show in the Southern Hemisphere, which was, of course, Les Miserables.
I'm going to stop you there, Darryl, because I don't want you to tell everybody what's in the book.
What's going on in the story?
Because later on they need to buy the book.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
fair enough.
So
that's the first section, autobiography.
First section is your story. And so what are the other sections?
Then I go into very much the second section of my business ethos, about the foundations of what I think allow people to achieve peak performance, or what we call it in the showbiz world, hitting the high notes. And hitting the high notes is very much a theme that I use when I'm presenting at conferences as a keynote speaker. Yeah. And my main ones are purpose. Purpose is so important. Yes, we hear it bandied about, and I'm just getting the reader to once again think about how important purpose is. I talk about action. We can have the best ideas in the world, but if we don't take action, you will achieve nothing. And action is a big thing. A lot of people have lots of gonnabes, I could have done that, would have done that, but they haven't taken action. Action is massively important. And then I talk about resilience, because obviously resilience is another big bandied about a lot phrase, but I have lived it. I've gone through some really tough situations, and I didn't think of it at the time, but I'm one of those guys who sit down, and I just if I believe in something, passionate about it, I can't take no for an answer, and I find another way of getting around it, and I will wake up tomorrow morning and think of new ways of achieving my goals and my dreams and whatever. And so resilience is really important, and I've written a lot about it in there. And then, of course, self-belief. Now, self-belief is kind of like, it could be termed as a nanny-pandy kind of an idea, but I could never have established Lovegrove Entertainment if it wasn't for my experience with the 3 waiters. And the 3 waiters was learning along the way. Oh my gosh, we'd never done this before, but we're going in thinking that we kind of know what we're doing, and making mistakes along the way as you can be expected to, but learning from those mistakes and doing what we can. So there's self-belief. Self-belief is a massively important thing. Focus is really important. There's so many distractions in this world. You've got to have a mindset which involves focus. And of course, values. The way you deal with people is really important. Yeah. The way you get up, your behaviors are really important. That's part of the values thing. So that's the second section. And then the third section, I go a bit more micro of I can understand as I was reading it going, this is fine, but how do I really do that? Can you go deeper for me? And the third one was probably the hardest section, because I had to really go, okay, this is how you do it. And rather than just talk about it in kind of like a macro stuff that you read a lot, I had to say, well, this is actually how you do it. And 5 ways, and I looked at 5 ways to reinvent yourself and stay relevant. 7 ways to be as relevant in your industry, ways to be seen as relevant in your industry, and the last one is it's how you deal with it. That's how you deal with life. Because I think those are massively important. Relevance, resilience, and reinvention. Because look, we can't be the same person every year after year after year. We do change. The world changes. Demand of products and services change. who we are. We change. Gosh, I don't know if I could sell the same product, no matter how good or amazing it is, year after year after year, you know, with the same enthusiasm as the first years. Maybe there's something else I can do that just adds quality to life. Something you know, my interests will change. All of the things that we do are constantly changing. That's the new norm, is constant change. And if we can learn how to, develop a mindset that's cool about that, doesn't panic about change, you know, continually involves talking to other people, bringing other people into your camp, and finding the best ideas, sponging off, you know, the ideas that are around there. You know, as I say that sometimes in my keynote, you know, if anybody's got an idea out there, please come to me, because I'm an idea whore, you know, kind of thing. And that's important, you know, because everything really is derivative these days, and you know, and a variation on a theme, as they were. So you've got to, and I try to be as much as I can original, you know, I've been copycatted a lot, the things I do, which is kind of, you know, what as they say, it's flattering, but
flattery,
yeah, but it's no fun. And I certainly couldn't ever do it. I couldn't ever take someone else's idea and run with it. So that's really what the three sections are about.
Great. Now, we've possibly covered this a little bit, but I think it's a really important one in terms of for people thinking about their own book journey. So, you know, talking about what the book has achieved for you, and I know that, you know, we're in COVID times, but, you know, did you have a clear goal for the book, and have you achieved this, or is it still a work in progress?
The achieving it is still a work in progress because of what we're talking about before. The conference world isn't happening, therefore my market isn't there.
Yeah,
that's the honest truth at the moment.
Yeah.
So I like to think this is still going to be just sitting there in the background, ready to be launched when the time is right.
Yeah, interesting. What's something that you would advise other authors not to do? So have you learned something? Have you learned something through this whole process that you then would say, gosh, if I'd known that when I started, I wouldn't do it?
No, because I think once again, the framework you provided, Jaqui, you got me to focus on, you know, read what's my target market, who am I trying to sell them, how am I going to sell it to them, and who are these people really, and what other publications do they buy or read, and you have to go right down to find out who you, and therefore all of that stuff that you might have made mistakes goes. It's, you know, you might have, if you hadn't had that target thing, you might have been writing a book for all these people. I need to find, oh God, they were never going to be interested in this. This is the people I need to go. And the other things you talk about in your frameworks, it's over a year ago now, I can't remember what they are, but I remember, you know, target market, what it is that, you know, looking at your content and all that sort of stuff. By the time you start reading that and answering the questions, the tough questions that you ask in that framework and really trying to answer it, that makes you go, I'm okay, I know the book I want to write now. And you kind of do. And because I was able to catch up with you intermittently during that time, and you were able to look at all the stuff that I'd written and give me feedback, I wasn't veering off. If anything, I think, you know, I think I was always pleased that you were happy with the direction I was taking. And so therefore, I don't think I made any mistakes that I regret. I just happy that I've had the framework that I was able to follow. And because I followed it and was disciplined to reach those deadlines, the book just was taking form. Yeah, I found the whole experience really quite a pleasant one.
Oh, good. Thank you. That was not a paid advertisement, by the way. What's the key message or messages that that you would like someone who's going to buy your book and read it to take away?
Okay. The main one is, I guess, the main message is anybody who is in business, or no, not even business, because it's a personal development book as well. When we get to, you know, our 30s, 40s, and 50s, we know that we've got people underneath us coming up, and we know that we still aspire to things. We've got plenty of life left in us still. And my book is to say, hey, you're going to have to, whether you like it or not, adopt a few things in your mindset, but if you can, and you're willing to do these sorts of things, you can stay relevant, and you can build the tools of resilience, and maybe give you ideas to reinvent yourself, to handle the pressure from the people coming up underneath you who want your job, to be still seen as someone who is management material. Or you can, now that these tools should help you to go, you know what, I am going to start the business. I might be 40 or 50 or 60 years old, but it's not too late. I want to do it. I want to live that dream. I've always said, no, it's too hard, but now maybe, this guy can do it. Maybe I can.
Yeah.
So that's really my message, is to say there are still tremendous things we can achieve in our lives, but it's not easy. The world is so fast, technology is so developing so quickly, that if we don't keep up with those technological advances, we don't keep up with how our people younger than us who are coming up at us and snapping at our heels, if we don't understand their language, their mindset, and that's not easy, because I'm not a big fan of the younger generations, but I have to know where their eyes are going, how they're thinking, because that's people who are going to be booking my acts in the next 10, 20 years. So I do have to have some understanding of them. So my message, I guess, is, look, there is there is a pathway to move forward with your dreams and passions still. Yes, it's tough, but this should give you some kind of idea. And don't just stop with this, obviously. Hopefully this would be something to inspire you to read other books of similar nature who might be able to help you out as well.
Interestingly, I'm very fortunate, that in what I do, I get to read lots of books. And I think the two things that I particularly took out of your book, because I've got resilience, I think, and relevance, is one was I was really interested in your whole thing around action. And the key part of that for me that I looked at was momentum. I really loved your whole discussion that you can take action, and everyone talks about taking action, but your whole discussion around the momentum part of it, for me, was something that I really valued getting out of your book.
Yeah. Momentum, that's what happens. I mean, momentum applies that you've been successful by taking action, that you're starting to get the sales, or you're starting to get the interest, or you're starting to realize, whoa, I'm really taking action. Look at this, the phones are starting to ring and things are happening. That's when the momentum starts to happen. And momentum is incredibly exciting. Because you had the purpose, you took the action, and you build that momentum. But of course, then what's my next chapter after I talk about that is resilience. And there's a reason for that, is because momentum comes and goes. It comes and it goes. It's not an endless thing at all. and then you sort of think, it was going so well, I had so much momentum, and now it's
then COVID happens.
9/11 happens, the GFC happens. That was my reality, was 9/11 shattered us, the GFC shattered us, COVID has shattered us. I mean, big time, not little thing, massively. You kind of have to totally start again. You have to go, what? This is just, and you do have those feelings of, how am I going to do it? But bit by day, bit by bit of observation, remaining curious, remaining passionate, you work it out. You do work it out.
And interestingly, I like your comment about kind of being contemporary and reinventing. I mentioned to you earlier that I'm watching belatedly the Kosminski Method on Netflix. I'm
so good.
Doing a bit of a binge on that, I must say. And last night I watched the episode when I can't remember his name. The really well-known actor comes in, and Michael Douglas asks him to come in and talk to his Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, yeah.
And Morgan Freeman, and Michael Douglas is chatting to Morgan, and he says, "Oh, I'd like you to come in and present to my crew." And then they have this great thing when Morgan comes in and basically does a pitch for his own masterclass on YouTube, right?
That's right.
And Michael Douglas is horrified, and then he gets up and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I've got a masterclass, and thousands of people can do it." And it's such a well set up scene.
Great scene.
But I also laughed because it's this thing that Morgan's on screen doing, YouTube masterclasses, and Michael clearly hasn't even got a website kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the program, but that was
it's brilliant. It's just
talking
brilliant.
about being contemporary, I thought it was really, really interesting. So thank you for that. So we're going to move on to the quick quiz, and related to things around books. So are you ready for this?
Yes, you go for it.
Good. So how do you read? Are you ebook or print book?
Print book.
Well
Definitely.
done.
I love holding it in my hand. I love turning the pages. I love putting a little corner when I've finished. Coming to that.
Yeah. Best place for reading, couch or bed?
Both are really good. Probably couch, because I do fall asleep too easily if I'm reading in bed.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm reading every night in bed a book called Macquarie at the moment about Macquarie. It's amazing. Lachlan Macquarie, amazing story. But I'm not getting through a lot of fast because I keep on falling asleep. It's amazing. It's an amazing book, but I keep on getting tired. So the couch.
Marking books. Are you a page folder or do you write in books?
No. I did a lot of writing in books when I was writing the book. I'd have books and I was going along and go, oh, that's a great idea. I would highlight stuff with the highlighter.
Ooh.
But that's my, and I must come back to that because that's an interesting thing. I've got to look at that. But was writing, or what was the other one?
Or folding the page over.
Oh, I see. When we want to both. Yeah. I do both.
Right.
Because the folding the page over tells me where the highlighted stuff is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Reading style. Do you read a few, skip a few, or do you read from beginning to end?
Beginning to end.
Okay. Outside of business, are you a fiction or non-fiction reader?
I'm a non-fiction reader. I used to be a massively fiction reader when I was younger, but I love historical stuff. James A. Michener turned me on to that more than anyone.
Yeah, same here actually. Yeah,
I just love James A. Michener's books.
Yeah, and, so do I. Fantastic. Yeah. Sharing books. Are you a hoarder or a giver?
I'm a hoarder. I buy them for myself. I just bought a book for my daughter though, and of course she's not hasn't opened the folder. So, but no, I'm a hoarder. I've got fantastic books, and I love. They're all there, and they're all my. I'm proud that I've read them. Yeah,
good. There is a saying that you can judge a person. Well, I judge a person by what books are in their bookshelf.
Yeah, well, you'd be very impressed by me, I think.
Okay, well, that's good. Writing style, do you use what we call Oxford English or American English?
I think I probably use, was it American or what?
Well, Australian English or Australian Oxford or American?
Australian Oxford.
Yeah.
I think I do. I like a little bit of, down and dirty stuff. It doesn't have to be all said the right way. Yeah. If I think the reader doesn't know what I mean by a certain expression, I'll do that rather than, leave it to chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not a pass or a fail, but I might have to have a quiet conversation with you about highlighting your books. Darryl, thank you so much for your time this morning. Perhaps you could just let people know where they can go and purchase your book.
Fantastic. Well, if you've watched the whole video, awesome. Why haven't I heard of you? A blueprint for standing out in a crazy, crowded, changing new world. DarrylLovegrove.com. Go, and it's on Amazon. You can go to Amazon. You can go to Utopia, those other ones. But if you want to go straight to the website, I can sign it for you, and I'll send it off from here. DarrylLovegrove.com. That's DARRYL Lovegrove.com. And go to the author. There's a whole lot of things on it. See the author. Click on that, and then the rest of it should take you through to the happy ending. And you get a CD too. There's a little. I've got this little bit here. says thank you gift at the end. I won't show you the URL because you need to buy the book. And then the URL's there, just type it in and I'll send you all 10 tracks from my latest CD.
And it's a really good one too. So I've listened to it and it's fabulous. Darryl, thank you so much for your time. And it's been really interesting, actually kind of, I guess, revisiting your book journey, because I was on it with you, but it was kind of, we've never really kind of sat down and talked about how you went through that. So thank you very much. And hopefully you've given some insights to people who are thinking about writing, publishing and marketing their own book.
Cool. Yeah, go for it.
Look forward to having that coffee with you soon and telling you off about marking up your books.
Indeed.
Okay. Bye, Darryl.
See you then, everyone.